What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Woodward Heavyweights. That's okay. What up, though? It's your boy Easy. Welcome back to Woodward Heavyweights. That's what it is. What up, though? Welcome back to Woodward Heavyweights.
What up, though, ladies and gentlemen? Man.
What up, though? Welcome back to Woodward Heavyweights podcast. I'm your boy Easy, joined by my man Kung Fu Spinny, aka Spinmo Rex, aka Mr. 10 Nicknames, aka Mr. Make Love to a Frog. I'm playing.
Hey, she's bad. She's bad. You know?
Hey, is she a frog? I'm a frog. You feel me?
Bring me that frog.
Whoa. We're joined by a special guest in the building, my guy Bryce Simon from the Motor City Hoops podcast. What up, though, man?
What's up, guys, man? How are you guys doing?
Good, man. Good. I'm happy to have you on. I took some abuse on Twitter over some Jaden Ivey takes, and I know that you're a guy that studies the game. You actually didn't abuse me because we're boys, whatever. You know what I'm saying, like we just share opinions, but people were using stuff you said again. It was all bad, man. It wasn't all bad because like I love it anyway. It's you know, what do they say? Any publicity is good publicity.
Yep.
But you know what I'm saying, I'll take it. And I honestly still kind of hold true to my opinion of the stuff I was saying, but obviously I respect your opinion, and I wanted to give, I guess I wanted to give you the opportunity to change my mind or like maybe educate me on like what I'm missing, and Jaden Ivey specifically, but others as well, because I'm a big fan of Keegan Murray. My boy Spinny here, he's a big fan of Shaden Sharp. I got into a little bit of Shaden. It was hard to find like full game film of Shaden Sharp for a minute, but I found some AAU stuff. But honestly, I mainly wanted to start actually. Real quick, introduce yourself to our audience and listeners, because I know you're almost at 1,000 subscribers yourself.
Yeah, trying to grow the YouTube channel, just doing NBA draft breakdowns. So Motor City Hoops on Twitter, Motor City Hoops YouTube. The podcast now is The Pistons Pulse with my guy Amari Sankofa II from the Detroit Free Press. And this is going to be a good one because my guy of the ones linked to the Pistons is actually Benedict Mathen. So all of us are on different pages here, so that's going to be really good stuff.
Okay. Do you want to start with your guy, Benedict Mathen?
No, let's start with Jaden Ivey. And I want to say this, Easy. I put a lot of time in this. I put a lot of hours. I've been spending all morning watching film, but I don't think I know any more than anybody else. I'm not here to like question anybody else's thoughts. If you think Jaden Ivey is a bad fit, that's fine. We can disagree. We can still be boys and move on.
Yeah.
Like I may disagree with you. Like I think Jaden Ivey can fit next to Cade Cunningham. And I think that's all I tried to express on Twitter. But I don't think you're an idiot or a clown or stupid because you don't. Like none of I'm not going to judge people that way. We all have our opinions, and there's 4, if not more, quality options at number 5 for the Pistons.
Yes, I 100% agree. And like I said, I know that you do your homework on all this stuff like that. And that's why like I wanted to reach out to you specifically to get your take on this, because I guess for me, if I were to start it out, the reason why I don't think it is a fit, and it'll be a fit in terms of like they'll go to the playoffs, right? They'll win games, but I think at a championship level of like winning like a championship and competing. Like I'm looking at the teams in the conference finals right now, and obviously I don't think Jaden Ivey shares the traits of shooting guards or wings on those teams, and even just to the point of like some of them, I guess Jalen Brunson maybe, but shooting the 3 consistently is the biggest thing for me. And the other thing I wanted to say too, when I think of a 3-level scoring facilitator like Cade Cunningham and a slashing guard who kind of struggled shooting, the only pairing of those two, in my mind, and you could help me if you can, that that won a championship was LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, which I spoke on the podcast today actually. But I feel like even they kind of like underfulfilled what they were supposed to be at the talent levels they did, and I feel like pairing those two, we'd be asking them to overcome the same stuff they did, and that's LeBron freaking James, Dwayne Wade. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't see it as a fit again at a championship level. I like Ivey. I think he'd be better as the guy, though, if that makes sense.
Okay, and I think that's where I probably disagree a little bit, Easy, is I don't trust Jaden Ivey's decision-making and stuff enough for him to be the guy. I don't know that you do want the ball in his hands all that much. So I actually think it's even better for him to come to Detroit and play with Cade Cunningham and play off the ball. But you're exactly right. The shooting has to be better. If the catch and shoot shooting doesn't get better, then yeah, you're right. It's not going to be a championship level backcourt. If the defense doesn't get better, Easy and Smith, it's not going to be a championship level backcourt. But that's what we do with all these guys we project. Is he the absolute best quote unquote fit? No, I think my guy Benedict Mathen is actually the best fit of all these guys. All I'm saying is I do think it can work.
Yeah, for me, I see for the most comparison of the players left in the conference championship games, I think he's the most comparable to Jaylen Brown, just in the fact that Jaylen Brown still doesn't have that consistent knockdown three-pointer. Like, he can hit the three, he can shoot the three, and when he's hot, he's hot. We saw he went 100% from two-point land a couple games ago and scored 40 points. It was this crazy performance, but he still is more of a slasher. And if Jaden Ivey can get to that level, that would be a great compliment. That would be a great piece to put around Cade, where he can play. I don't think he can play defense like Jayden Brown, and his shot needs to get to that level to where he's reliable, at least from the outside. Like you said, the catch and shoot factor is huge to me, because that's where you have these guys. You have Cade Cunningham, you have Killian Hayes. You're going to bring in somebody else potentially in the post. You have Marvin Bagley, these guys that are going to attract defense, and you need to kick it out. And for guys that are going to be sitting there waiting for the ball, ready to catch and shoot, I talked about it on our podcast last time, is that Jaden Ivey, he doesn't strike the fear into the defenders to where they have to stay attached to him on the outside like that. Like a guy like Benedict Mathen or a Keegan Murray, that you know that when they're out there, if they're open, they're going to knock the shot down. And that is so important for not only today's basketball, but for the Pistons, because we were so lacking in the three-point shot last year, that I think bringing in a guy like that who needs to build, that's probably the biggest factors that he needs to improve on is three-point shot making and defense, and that's what we were lacking the most on last year. I don't like bringing that into the situation. Like I said, he's not a bad player. I like him as a player. I watched a lot of big-time basketball last year, so I saw him a lot, and I think he could play with Cade, because there still is a lot of off-ball. Cade plays a lot off the ball. He did a lot last year, and he's comfortable doing that, but I just think we need to get a player whose strengths fill our needs, which are defense and three-point shooting.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. If I wanted to push back, like continue to push the Jaden Ivey, train, I think he can attack closeouts though. So I think he shoots it well enough that when he's off ball, Cade drives in, he attracts these defenders, you kick it out to Ivey, you better close out, because he will make catch and shoot threes, I think. And then when you close out, now he can attack an unsettled defense, a defender that's closing out to him. So I do think, again, playing off ball, which he did a lot at Purdue. That's one thing in my film study that I found more and more. He played off ball quite a bit. Now, there are some questions, and this just came up. Me and Omari recorded with Richard Stamen at Mavs Draft for the Pistons Pulse this week. There are some questions on, does Jaden Ivey want to do that? So that's one question I would ask if I was Troy Weaver. Are you willing to play off ball? How much do you want the ball in your hands in the NBA? Because, we always say, oh, he can play off ball, but what if he doesn't want to?
And when you say off ball, like, are you talking about, like, obviously, once in a while he'll come off the screen and attempt like the catch and shoot. But I'm like, when I see him, and the stuff that I watched this morning, there's a lot of, like, I guess dumping it to him, and then him taking a guy off the dribble, or.
I would say whenever I say off ball, I just mean he's not coming down and getting the initial action. So here's my envision. Is Cade Cunningham downs and he gets the ball screen, the initial action, let's say with Marvin Bagley III, and they run a screen and roll and it's not there. And now you have a weak side action of maybe Jaden Ivey's coming off a pin down. The initial action wasn't there. He kicks it to Ivey. He gets a ball screen from Jeremy Grant's still on the team. Let's say Jeremy Grant sets a ball screen and now he's attacking off of that. So I mean, it doesn't always have to work that way. I just think Ivey can do that. If you watch, he was running off staggered screens on the baseline all the time.
Oh, that for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and that's another factor. I like that offense a lot, like that Golden State Warriors offense that we saw it in the Pistons with Rip Hamilton. You see it with other players like CJ McCollum and stuff like that, where they're just running without the ball. They're running around the floor, and they're taking these back screens. They're taking off of these guys. And when you have these big bodies that I want us to sign Mitchell Robinson, and so if you bring in a Mitchell Robinson, you have him, you have Beef Stew, you have Marvin Bagley, you have potentially, if we trade Jeremy Grant, another big guy in a Keegan Murray or a Duran, or you have Jeremy Grant that can make a screen down there and get a guard open to have him sprint around the floor, get all the way to the other, catch, boom, right there with it, and I don't know. I think he can mold into that, but I definitely feel like he's more comfortable shooting off of the dribble or like you said, initiating the offense. And like you said, it's different because Cade can do that as well. Cade can play off ball. We saw he was comfortable doing that with the Corey Joseph show, which don't even get me started on that. But I don't know. I just feel like Shaedon Sharpe, from what I saw from him, he is a better shooter in my eyes. Obviously, we didn't see that at a collegiate level, so it's different to that point. But when I see his jump shot, when I see the confidence he has in it, where he pulls up from, the different type of shot making that he possesses, it gets me more excited for the potential of what he can be, definitely.
And I think a lot of people, if we shift to Shaedon Sharpe, have made the argument it's the Pistons need to swing for the fence. I think Shaedon Sharpe it's so hard. He is absolutely a wild card. I've felt comfortable taking him some mock drafts, and then sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to think about him. He does fit a really good archetype next to Cade Cunningham as well. Again, and I know we'll talk about him eventually. Easy Benedict Mathen is the best archetype. But Cade's so malleable, you can find different guys. So many guys fit next to him. But I think there's an argument to make that you put a bucket getter like Shaedon Sharpe, who doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, creating with the ball in his hands all the time. I think that's a really good fit next to Cade Cunningham as well. Shaedon Sharpe's defense is completely unknown as well. Like, as much as I kind of, critique Jaden Ivey, what do we know anything about Shaedon Sharpe on the defensive end of the floor?
Yeah.
Can I ask one thing too? Because you did say mentions one thing that with the archetypes, and I want to make this clear. I guess like our listeners and stuff like that too, and whoever may tune into the video, make sure you guys hit the like button and make sure you check out Motor City Hoops as well. But the archetype of Jaden Ivey and a Cade Cunningham, is there an example of it now in the NBA, or I guess not now, both now in the NBA and also like at a championship pedigree that you could like, I guess, help me feel comfortable with? Because I don't hate the idea of Jaden Ivey. He's just not my number one option or two.
No, and this was kind of your tweet or the original video, right? This is where it came. That was your original point, correct? Was like, we haven't. Your worry is we haven't seen the ball dominant big, quote unquote, guard, whatever you want to classify Cade as, with the explosive, athletic, also maybe ball dominant guard in Jaden Ivey. That's kind of your worry, correct, Easy?
Yeah. Like the 3-level scoring facilitator, and then I'd say that slashing guard with kind of inconsistent in shooting.
No, I can't think of one off the top of my head, so I don't have like a rebuttal to that. It will be interesting. I may have to tweet this out and see if I can get some of the same feedback that you got. But I cannot think. You brought up the one with LeBron and Dwayne Wade. Obviously, anytime you're using LeBron James as an example, there should be an asterisk because that dude is just unreal. We're not necessarily seeing that with Giannis, right? Like, I don't think Middleton or Drew Holiday fit that archetype. Luka doesn't have that type of player in Dallas. Jalen Brunson is not the same type of archetype as what Jaden Ivey is. So, I mean, I guess to your point is I can't think of one off the top of my head. No.
Yeah, and I'm not like using it as I'm winning the debate. It's just that's where I struggle, right? It's like I like when I want to build this team. I'm not the GM, you know what I'm saying, but like I like to see, I guess it's just map it out and see how make a championship team or something like that, or even like something like now the 4 teams in the conference finals, like just something similar to that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I struggle with it. That's what makes me worried. You know what I'm saying?
And when I think about it, and I dive really deep into it, obviously we have. You already said the LeBron James and Dwayne Wade comparison. To a similar degree, you have Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. But that's that's fucking Michael Jordan. That's Michael Jordan. That's LeBron James. You can't hope somebody's gonna be that. And even like a Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, situation. But at that point, Paul Pierce, Rajon Rondo, you have Kevin Garnett. You have Ray Allen. You have these other pieces that it's not solely on the backs of these guys. And Paul Pierce is different. Paul Pierce isn't gonna, he's not gonna run your offense. He's the guy that's gonna get you buckets. He's the guy. But Rondo is the playmaker. Rondo is the point guard that drives the ship. Yeah. And so it's hard to think about because when we think about maybe James Harden and Russell Westbrook, we see how that didn't work out. James Harden and Chris Paul, obviously both of those guys can make shots at a certain level.
Yes, that's a shot making. And
it's different because Chris Paul is more of the point guard and James Harden is his own thing, James Harden's an enigma at this point because he had the 3 years.
What? I'm joking.
Where he had the 3 years where he was the best offensive player in the history of basketball, and then they changed the rule, and now he's averaging 20 points a game. So it's tough to really nail down what that archetype would be, who would be comparable to that backcourt pairing, because even you look at it now with the backcourts out there now where you have Desmond Bane and Ja Morant. And even at that point, Ja Morant is more of the Jaden Ivey, but he's in the lead. And you have Desmond Bane, who's the knockdown shooter, defender. And then you have the same thing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, where Steph Curry is the lead and he's the best shooter of all time. And you have Klay Thompson, who's the standstill shooter and defender. And then you have Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. Is that kind of more comparable to a Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham?
What is that championship level? You know
Colin Sexton's not as big. Maybe he's not as skilled as Cade Cunningham. And again, that's not a championship pedigree backcourt. So
that's where I struggle, man. And like, I don't know if I said this in the pod, and like maybe it's a little bit of a flex. Maybe it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But no, it's just like Jalen Rose is the one who brought this up to me and kind of like changed my philosophy on basketball a little bit. And he was like, you take away all skill, and basketball is a big man's game, right? Because we were talking about with him more specifically, we were having a discussion about Ja Morant or Zion Williamson. He was talking about give me Zion. Like look at the NBA championships throughout the history of time. When it was the dinosaur age, it was the big men that dominated the game. Now this force, no more hand checking, you're spacing the floor a little bit more. You're starting to see the wings. You know what I'm saying? The Kawhi Leonards, LeBron James, KD. You know, I mean, even you can point to like the Warriors, but even then they had Draymond and at the time Harrison Barnes,
and now they have a platoon of wings.
Yeah, and Iguodala. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like for me, I want 6'6" and up, man. And for Shaden Sharp, the reason why I would shade towards him, no pun intended, is like he's got that 6'5" frame, 7-foot wingspan, and the kid's still only 18, so he may grow something. You know what I'm saying? I almost look at him. I could be way wrong. Again, it's so hard to evaluate this guy because it's hard. But I almost feel like a BI with some bounce in to him a little bit there if he grows a little bit more. Those long ass arms look crazy, and again, he might get taller.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised, honestly, Easy, that you aren't on the Shaden Sharp bandwagon then, because and I don't disagree with this, but to me, your thing is build this team to be a title contender. Like right now, not that they're going to be it next year, but every decision being made should be about the long-term play of being a title contender.
Yes.
I may disagree a little bit. Like I'm just like, let's just keep making small improvements. Let's make a draft pick that's going to be good. Let's make a free agent signing that's going to be good. Let's improve. Let's take a step forward. Then the next year we'll do the same thing. The next year we'll do the same thing. And then maybe there's a point where you have to make a trade for the guy that takes you over the top. That would be a little bit more my philosophy, but with yours, I'm cool with it. That's fine. But then I think Shaden Sharp's the pick because probably the most absolute highest upside is Shaden Sharp.
Yes. No, he's up there for me too. Like I struggle between he and Keegan, the guys that I want. I love Benedict Mathen too. I just don't know. Like I feel like he'll be there at 7 if that trade ends up working out. Obviously, Portland probably wants to keep Damian Lillard happy. You saw his reaction to the 7th pick. I don't think that he thinks they're drafting somebody that's gonna, allow them to continue to compete. Man, his immediate reaction was like, "Oh man, damn." Yeah, so I think that pick's definitely getting moved for a veteran piece. And I think Benedict could be there.
It scares me that people are talking so openly about that trade, though. I'm like, if Jeremy Grant is really going to get traded for the number 7 pick, I don't feel like everybody would be talking about it the way they are. So now I'm like reversing, like, no, everybody shush. Like it should be quiet before this move has happened. And so like now I've talked myself into, no, it's not going to happen.
That's true.
I don't know. Sometimes I think a little bit sideways. So that's I'm probably overthinking it. But
no,
my thing with Keegan Murray is,
go ahead.
With Keegan Murray is, does he move the needle for that championship type upside though?
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. Like I don't know that there's like elite talent in there. I just feel like in terms of a fit and to like a winning pedigree. I mean, I look at Luka Doncic right now and his platoon of wings. You know what I'm saying that he's kicking the ball out too, and they can play both ways. Because that's another thing too with a guy that's that big. This is part of the conversation with Jalen is like they can guard multiple positions. Say they get beat off the dribble if they have the height and the arm length. You know what I'm saying that they're going to recover and get a block.
former Pistons legend Reggie Bullock going 0 for 10 the other night. That was fun to watch. Yeah. But with Keegan Murray, I compare him to a Kuzma type of player. Like, he's a little smaller than I think Kuzma's like 6'10". We talked about that, and Keegan's like 6'8",
6'9",
6'9". But yeah. 6'9" and with basketball shoes with the Dr. Scholl's in there. But so Keegan, he gets, like, when I watched his tape too, I liked what I saw. You know, he was draining threes. We had a video of him just standing in the corner draining like 10 threes in a row. I watched him again. You know, watched a lot of Big Ten basketball. I'm an MSU grad, so I watched a lot of that. Saw him at Iowa. He takes guys off the dribble. He can, in a college at least, take the ball full court and go up, initiate some offense in the full court, you know, attack. And he is a disadvantage for big guys, because if they're too big, he'll take them off the dribble. He'll give them a little ball fake, a little pump fake, take them to the hole. If they're too small, he can back them down, because I saw he's got great footwork. He's got great finishing ability in the post and around the basket. And it's important to have that kind of, you know, continuity as a scorer, especially when you're a big man like that, and you're not going to be. We're not expecting him to be, you know, a Karl Anthony Towns or one of these guys that is these dominant, transcendent big men. So you need that kind of all-around scoring game to get in where you fit in the NBA nowadays. And that's also, we talked about having bodies like that in the East, to throw at a Giannis, to KD. Throw at a KD, to throw at a Jason Tatum, to where you've got these guys out there that you can put on them, and maybe they're not going to lock them down, but they're going to be a body that's going to be 6 fouls that you have out there to at least attack these guys.
Wear them down throughout the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Keegan Murray. So don't take what I said a little bit ago as like Keegan Murray slight. I just was, you know, thinking.
No, you're speaking facts.
Yeah, and I am one of those that doesn't think he has a huge ceiling and high upside. I'm not saying he can't hit it. I'm not saying he can't be a 20-point-a-game guy at some point in his career. I'm just not sure I believe in that as much. But he is a very good player for all the things you outlined, Spencer. And I believe in the defense. He definitely can guard 3s and 4s, probably can switch on to 2s. I'm not sure I believe he can hold up against 5s right now, but maybe in some scenarios, maybe if he gets stronger and bigger, which guys are going to do, he can shoot it. He definitely has more wiggle in his game than what I anticipated. So he is a very, very good player for a lot of the reasons you guys have talked about. I'm not anti-Keegan Murray. I'm just a little higher on a couple other guys.
Yeah. And then if we could transition, actually, just real quick, what is like your hierarchy? Like what's your power rankings for those guys that are most likely to be there at 5?
Yeah, so I would probably go Jaden Ivey and Benedict Mathen would be like my 1-2, probably in that order. And then Shaedon Sharpe and Keegan Murray would be 3-4, also probably in that order. But I just want to make it clear, like, I'm not going to be throwing my remote at the TV at the end of June if Troy Weaver selects Keegan Murray, even though I would take him 4th. I will be perfectly fine and happy and be willing to do as many breakdowns as anybody wants to see on Keegan Murray if that's who's picked, and I think he'll be a really good player. I just prefer Jaden Ivey and Benedict Mathen, and Benedict Mathen has kind of become my guy, quote unquote, as I do this draft scouting stuff. I just really like his game, but I like all 4.
Yeah. Amen. That's what we said. Like, literally, when we had this first talk with Jeff about Jaden Ivey, I was like, the first sentence I had was like, I saw him a lot, and when I put my eyes on him, I liked a lot of what I saw. I liked it a lot, but I prefer Shaedon Sharpe. And everybody's like, "Oh, you idiot! You don't know what you're talking about." Blah blah blah. Like, chill. Like, these are all good players. These are good options to have, where you have 4 to 5 players that you can pick from and still be happy. And that's why, you know, if we can get rid of Jeremy Grant for the 4 or the 7, and we can get 2 of those guys, that would be pretty damn awesome. And if we end up trading him for the 4 and getting Shaedon Sharpe and Keegan Murray, I said it before, I'm buying a Troy Weaver jersey. Like, I'll customize a Troy Weaver jersey and I'll rock it. It'll be the 00, and I'll put a Reaper patch on it. Like,
hell yeah.
So. But that's the ultimate thing, is I have the utmost faith in Troy Weaver, to where he's shown that he can identify the talent in the draft, and he picks to his needs. He picks to his team's needs, and he knows that Cade is that dude. He knows that this is Cade's team. So he's going to pick the guy that's going to most benefit playing alongside Cade Cunningham. And that's why we haven't been in a situation like this as Pistons fans. I've said it multiple times. Cade Cunningham is the best player we've had since Isaiah Thomas, and we haven't been in this situation where we have that solidified guy who's like, all right, this is going to be our stud. He's going to be on our team for 15 years. Build around him.
how much fun does that make being a Detroit Piston fan right
It's
now?
wild, dude.
I mean, and someone said this the other day, like, yes, it sucked the Pistons fell from 3 to 5 in this lottery, but the fact you had Cade Cunningham already kind of makes it okay. You're like, it'll be all right because we have Cade Cunningham. And could you imagine if last year we would have fell from whatever I think it was the second best odds to go or wherever we landed. If we would have fell to 5 last year and then this year you would have landed to 1, like I would rather it work out the way that it did. Cade Cunningham is that dude. He is the face of the franchise. He is everything this franchise needs on and off the court. I love to say that every podcast I go on.
Me too. It's because it's so true. It's amazing.
It almost doesn't feel real. Like it took me a minute to like believe it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I was like, I'm going to buy a Detroit Piston player's sneakers. Like, he's going to have his own shoes. I'm going to be able to buy the Cade Cunningham ones. And I'm just so excited about that. And like you said, would you rather have Cade Cunningham and Keegan Murray, Benedict Mathen, Shaedon Sharpe, or Jalen Suggs and Jabari Smith? Give me Cade Cunningham, and I'll deal with whoever we get next.
Yeah, I like Jabari Smith Jr. a lot, but I would definitely take my guy Cade and whichever one.
No doubt.
And real quick too, before you just move off the Jaden Ivey stuff, so you're pretty much just believe like he'll continue to develop his shot and hit it a lot more consistently than he did in college. It sounds like.
Yeah, like I always like to say that I'm not a mechanics guy. Like I played college basketball. My thing was as a shooter, but even because of that, or even though I was that, I don't break down shots. Like that's not my thing. So I can't dive into the mechanics of it. I can't tell you like this or that. The first thing I notice is his feet seem really close for me. It's a set shot, but that's just not my thing. And so I've learned quickly over the last 18 months to stay in my lane. So all I'm going to say is I do think he can, but I don't have a bunch of technical stuff to tell you why.
For sure.
I feel you on that because, again, me, Division III champion. I am Michigan State basketball. Mark D'Antonio's 12-0 undefeated. No, but like seeing what Dwayne Casey did with other players in Toronto, with an OG Anunoby, with a Pascal Siakam, of turning these guys and giving them a respectable jump shot, giving them, they I don't know if they changed the mechanics, they changed the confidence, they changed their mindset, but they did something to where these guys can knock down shots now. OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, their first couple of years in the league, they couldn't shoot. It just wasn't there. And adapting that and having someone who has a track record of building up players like that is definitely, that's a confidence boost when you get a guy who maybe needs to get tweaked a little bit. So you bring him in, and like Troy Weaver said, there's no better coach in the world than Dwayne Casey for what they need right now. So if he can, sprinkle some of his dust on there and help out Jaden Ivey's shot, I would love that more than anything else, but we'll see.
Hopefully he does it to Killian too then.
Yeah. Well, Killian, dude, for the first 20 games of the year, Killian was our best three-point shooter by percentage. Maybe not by volume. He was shooting like 2-3 a game, but he was knocking down 1 to 2 of them, and he doesn't have like a killer mentality. Kind of an ugly shot, but it's not like Sean Marion ugly. Like it's not terribly ugly. It's
is anybody Sean Marion ugly when it comes to jump shots?
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. Like it's like Sean Marion, Joakim Noah, and then the rest of the world.
Joakim Noah is disgusting, man. But I'm not really tripping people's mechanics either because names like that, like Sean Marion, or like everyone shoots a 3 different as long as it goes in. Yeah, that's truly all that matters.
Sean Marion's shot is so weird, dude. It is like from his gut. And but I love Killian Hayes though.
I like Killian.
I was on the train. I'm not ready to get off the train yet.
I'm not getting off the train.
Watch him go for 40 points in Paris against the Bulls.
That'd be
go awesome. Crazy.
That'd be amazing. No, I think like him too. Like again, I think of everything as in terms of like a championship level because that's obviously we want our team to win a championship, right? So like I think even at his worst, he's a piece.
Oh, for sure.
Championship team for sure. Like his defense is phenomenal.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think whenever I talk about him being a second unit point guard, which I think may end up being his role, maybe that's not great value at the number 7 pick. That's not Killian's fault that he was chosen at the wrong spot. That would be Troy Weaver's fault. But that's actually or absolutely a guy. If you're talking about a championship team, you need a second unit PG that is at the level of what Killian Hayes can be. Yeah, so he can defend. How often do we see him late in the season come off the bench but finish the game with the first unit? And so I think Killian Hayes absolutely can be a piece. I may have given up on him as like a starting unit point guard. I don't think it's out of the realm, but I don't have a lot of confidence in it. But being a piece of this team, competing long term, there's no reason to give up on that yet.
And how often in the end of the year where the tank was palpable in my eyes because Killian was sitting on the bench and we had Corey Joseph guarding the guy coming up the court in a 2-point game. And I'm like, what is going on right now? Like, why is Corey Joseph guarding the ball handler right now? Why is Corey Joseph guarding Luka Doncic? Why is he guarding Jason Tatum? Like, get this guy out of here. But no, I love Killian. I love what he brings. I love his mentality, his feel for the game. It's different. We see those passes that he had later in the year where he's doing
always the nice
the
passes.
Dr. J around the basket and then kicks it to Sadiq in the corner. He's got the between the legs, behind the back to Sadiq in the corner, and his defense has always been there. He can guard 1 through 4. He can't guard 5s. He can switch off of because he's got quick hands, So if it's at the top of the key, top of the post, pick and roll, he can switch off of them and create a little wall until he gets help, but then he'll get bodied. So it's only a little because my friend Darius says, "Oh, you can guard 1 through 5." I'm like, there are no guards. Can guard 1 through 5. Like Miami LeBron could guard 1 through 5 because he was 6'8", 300 pounds. Like that's the only way you're going to guard 1 through 5 is if you're a big guy that can move with guards, not with a guard who can play against big guys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm sorry, that was a little that was a little rant.
He does it every time.
Every time I think of it, it just gets me going. But so let's get into your guy Benedict Mathen. What do you think he brings to the table to a Pistons team?
So what I like to say with Benedict Mathen is he has the floor of Keegan Murray in terms of he's going to come in and he's going to be a quality NBA player. At the very worst, he's a 3-and-D guy with the higher ceiling. Maybe not as high as Sharp and Ivey, but a higher ceiling than what those guys normally have. So he's going to come in, he's going to bang shots, he's going to guard the other team's best perimeter player. He can guard 1 through 3, probably not 4s right now. He's got to get a little bit stronger. But offensively, I think he has the ability to run some pick and rolls, score, go get his own bucket. He's a big-time athlete. He can shoot off the bounce. He can shoot on the move. And so those are things that give me more hope that he comes in, can become more than just a 3-and-D guy.
Yeah, and he's got that confidence. We saw, I don't know if you watched those pickup games they were playing. They interviewed him after. They said, who do you see yourself in 5 years? Who's Benedict Mathen in 5 years? He said the best player in the NBA. So I love that. That's just a plus on top of it. And like you said, having a guy like that can be that Klay Thompson before the injury where he was locking down your player's best wing. He was locking down your team's best scoring option, and he was giving you, buckets on the other end where he had the ridiculous games where it was like 42 points on like 7 dribbles or something like that. It's like, what the fuck is that? That shouldn't be possible. And I don't know if he's, that type of shooting is once or twice in a generation where you see a Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who's happen to be on the same team, which is stupid. And so I don't know. I like that too because, like you said, he's got that wing, that 3-and-D, mindset, which is so what the NBA's wrapped around. When we look at the Celtics, we look at the Warriors, we look at the Mavericks, where they have all these guys that are 3-and-D guys that they play this positionless basketball. Like even the Raptors ran an entire 5-forward lineup where it was Precious Achiuwa, Pascal, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, and somebody else, and it was like, what? You don't have a guard on the floor right now, but they're just rotating. They're playing defense. They're all long. They're all great defenders, and they could score from every different type of area. So loading up on guys like that is a great idea, especially with how spread out and fast-paced the NBA game is. So I wouldn't be mad at that in any sense of the term.
At 5?
Yeah. I mean, if it comes down to it, if that's Troy Weaver's decision, like I said, there's not a lot you could do to get me off of Shaedon Sharpe just because I love his upside. I think he's got the most potential, and it's a little bit of the sexy unknown factor, and like him being the #1 overall recruit, like you can't bluff that too much. So But Benedict Mathen, it's a good pick. These are good problems to have where we're choosing from 4 great players.
You said it easy. He's a dog too. Like that's one thing I have in my notes. So I was doing some stuff on Jabari and Chet and Paolo before, the Pistons drop. And Jabari was probably the most intense defender I had scouted, just the attitude he played with. But Benedict Mathen was right behind him, man. Benedict Mathen gets after you. I saw him disrupt entire possessions, obviously in college, but disrupt entire possessions with what he did on the ball. Off the ball, he can get a little lost at times, but that dude is a competitor. He's intense, and he plays with attitude in the best possible way.
1,000%. And like Spence, you brought this up. I thought it was an amazing point on our last podcast, or the one with Jeff, where you kind of drew the similarity between Brad Holmes and Troy Weaver, to where like they'll take the guys that are dogs. They'll take the competitors. You know what I'm saying? He'll take the guys that like want to win. You saw that in Isaiah Stewart. I'm saying even Sadiq. I booked an interview last year with Sadiq Bey, and he ended up just canceling on me because he wanted to go work out. Yeah, I was like, wait, what? Dude, I was like so excited for this. He's like, yeah, I just gotta get. I don't feel comfortable enough because it was an All-Star break. He's like, we suck right now, man. Like, there's no excuse why I shouldn't be working. I was like, all right, like I guess that's cool. But you know what I'm saying? He takes those guys with that type of mentality and like, say what you want about the skill set. I mean, I think there's enough there to like to desire, but that competitiveness. I mean, we see it in Jimmy Butler.
I love Jimmy Butler.
It's a big name that they're out there. I'm not making a comparison at all, but I'm just drawing in terms of mentality. Kobe Bryant, like, it's infectious, man. It rubs off the team, especially if that guy ends up producing as well. He becomes a leader in the team, and that just becomes the mindset of the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that fits Detroit, right? And Cade Cunningham.
1,000%.
Cade Cunningham's got a little more sex appeal, like you say, he's that sex, but he also has that mentality. One of the favorite clips early in the season was him locking a dude up. I think it was Franz Wagner, and then diving on the floor. How many times did he dive on the floor throughout the season? Like, he just fits that Detroit, us versus everybody else, going to work, bad boys, all the stuff. He encompasses all of it with the talent he has. And I guess I just feel like maybe Benedict Mathen has a little bit of the same. He's going to be that dog, but also have the skill level to go with it. And you're right, Sadiq Bey has some attitude. Obviously, Isaiah Stewart ain't backing down from nobody.
Yeah, we saw that.
You, LeBron James.
Isaiah Livers now too.
I do think there's something to that with what Troy Weaver's trying to build. I think it's those type of players, like good quality people, but also competitors on the floor that want to win and want to compete, and they're not going to back down from you no matter who you are.
Yeah, and you need that in the course of an 82-game season. You know what I'm saying? All day you need that. And the one thing I like about Benedict Mathen. Go ahead.
I was just saying, and then when you get into the playoffs, you got to have that mentality, especially the first couple of years.
We saw that, the young guns sitting courtside at the Celtics.
Love that, by the way.
Celtics Heat game. Yeah, love that because this is two of the best defensive teams in the NBA. This is two of the most historic franchises in the history of the NBA, with Miami and with the Boston. And you've got these guys banging, and you have your young gun. Hell yeah, brother, you got these guys banging. No, but you've got your young guns. You've got Cade. You got Isaiah. You got who else? Killian and other Isaiah, and they're all sitting there, and they're taking it in. They're feeling that atmosphere. They're seeing what has to be done. Yes, they're seeing what has to be done when you're going up against a Jason Tatum, a Jimmy Butler. These guys in these situations who are built for that limelight. They're seeing what they do, how they do it, and what it feels like. And this is what it feels like.
Can I speak to Coach Casey? You brought it up earlier, Spencer. So it sounds like you're a fan, and I am right now as well, of what you said. He is the perfect guy for where this team is at right now. Yes. Now, I will question Coach Casey's X's and O's and some decisions like that. That stuff doesn't matter to me right now. I don't care. You have a young team, a young locker room, and he flew. It came out today from the beat writers why all those guys were there. Like, what was it? Killian and Stu were there for Puma, and then Cade and Livers. And then Casey made the flight to the game just because those guys were there. He wasn't just there.
Yeah.
I love that about Coach Casey. He gets it. He's developing young men into professionals, showing them the right way to do things. And to me, that's the most valuable thing we can have from a head coach right now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big Coach Casey fan. I love what he did in Toronto. I love what he built there. And it's It's not his fault he ran into LeBron for 8 years in a row when this guy was tearing up the league in his prime with 2 super teams. Like it's you can only do nobody could beat him except for in the finals, you know.
There was that one series where he had more points, more rebounds and assists.
Than
Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan combined. I was like
I feel there's only so much you can do when you go up against LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's finally over. And then it's LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving. You're like, well, fuck me, you know. And so I love Coach Casey. I love what he did. He turned these guys that nobody thought of. Like I said it before, OG Anunoby, you know, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, these guys that shouldn't have been what they are, and he turned a couple of them into all-stars. He turned OG Anunoby into a great rotation player, and that's what I'd love to see, and that's what we needed. We needed to build this thing from the ground up, because as soon as Troy Weaver came in, he gutted the whole thing. He traded everybody. He got rid of these old dead bodies, the dead weight, ripped the skeletons out of the closet, and now he's building it from the ground up, and it's Dwayne Casey, you know, harvesting the roots and doing what he needs to implant his wisdom into these young players.
Yeah, and I think this is a big offseason for Troy Weaver, guys. I'm a huge believer in Troy Weaver, and he's done a great job doing exactly what you just said, Spencer, in terms of like breaking it down, tearing it apart. The cap situation is way better. There's an influx of young talent. But now he's got to start making some right decisions. I know some people have questioned some things, the Bruce Brown trade, this trade. You can question some individual moves, maybe even the Killian pick if you want to go that far. But this is a huge draft pick. It's a huge decision to be made with Jeremy Grant, and you have cap space now. He's got some really tough decisions that he gets paid big money to make, and I do think it's going to be important that he makes the right decisions on some of these bigger moves.
Definitely.
1,000%. And touching back on like the attitude and effort, guys, I think that's part of the reason he cleared house. Got rid of the Blake Griffin. We don't need your, I don't want to say negative mindset. I'm not trying to bash Blake Griffin, although I have in the past, but I'm not trying to like shit him. But he took that out of the locker room, you know what I'm saying, and get guys who are just competitive and hungry and want to prove themselves in a young core, and that he did. Back to Benedict Mathen, though, in our list of guys here. So I know you got the kids sleeping and stuff like that, but big fan of him. I love that 6'6", 6'7", like guard multiple positions, and again, like the dog. You can't hate it. I think it was he shoot like 36% from 3 or something like that.
He shot even better as a he shot even better as a freshman. I think he was like 41%, but I think in his sophomore season, then he's taking tougher shots off the dribble. Again, he's a guy that can legit run off a screen. Like he can run off a stagger, catch, shoot. I think he's going to get better as passing, operating pick and roll. He's a good cutter, offensive rebounder, those type of things. He just does a lot of really good stuff. Yeah,
big fan of him. On my list personally, I'm not going to say it because I sound like such a hater.
Bring it up.
I have him over Ivey too.
Yeah.
Personally. Again, the size thing too. Like Ivey's 6'4". I love the explosiveness. I just don't think like you're winning off of that in the NBA at 6'4", in my opinion. Just saying. But the sexy name on the list. Or actually, you have anything else you want to add to that?
Nah, that's all good.
Let's get to sexy, Jaden Sharp. The prospect that everyone – I don't think – does anyone actually hate this pick? I think everyone's kind of just intrigued. I don't know if anyone's like absolute no on it.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think, guys. Like, I've heard enough. I've watched the videos. The athleticism is sexy. You know, he's catching lob. He's getting blocks. He's doing all that. Like, he has like real bounce. Like, and it shows up on game film whenever you see the highlights. I haven't had the opportunity to watch a full game film. Even if it's against high school kids, I would love to be able to do that. I would feel more comfortable speaking on him and those things if I got to see a full game. But you can take a little bit, I guess, from the highlights. He's very intriguing. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And the thing with him, too, is, again, like I get the upside of him for me. He's already 6'5", 6'6". He's got the 7-foot wingspan. He turns 19 on the 30th. Like, I think he'll literally physically grow, as well as, like, you watch the stuff. I'll send you a video that I found, Bryce. There's one against this guy named Dior Johnson, and another one where it's kind of just like a film breakdown, a bunch of AAU games. But he's got that bounce. He attacks the offensive rim for boards, you know what I'm saying, the putbacks. The other thing, too, is, like, he's got that step back
that
James Harden does, but he'll knock down the three, you know what I'm saying? which tells me he can shoot the ball. And that's him creating the shot with a step back. Like, imagine he has Cade, just, you know what I'm saying, feed him when he's in his spots. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I love Cade Cunningham, man. Like that's a guy, though, you know what I'm saying? Like, he shoots more, and again, I get it. It's not at a collegiate level, but watching him, you can just tell he's got that shooter's touch. You know what I'm saying? He's got the stroke. And he to me, he would shoot more consistently or grow into shooting more consistently. And, like, all the high school stuff about not seeing him, like, I get it in terms of, like, not, I guess, standing, like, pounding your fist on the table like, this is the guy, because you don't know for sure. But let's be honest, man. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard, all these names, man, out of high school.
Amir Johnson. Like,
but no, I'm saying, like those are guys taken out of high school. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
why not?
Why not? You know what I'm saying? You know?
It makes me angry when people, that's why they hate him. You know, oh, he wasn't good enough to play in college. We didn't see him play in college. Like, get out of here with that. Like, he would have played in college and he would have been great in college. And that's when I watched Cade Cunningham a couple of years ago. I was watching his tape before upcoming to that draft, and the two things other than his vision and his passing awareness and his IQ that stood out for me were elite NBA level shot making and elite NBA level dribble moves. And I see that NBA level shot making from Shaedon Sharpe to where he's like shot making, like falling away, 18 to 25 footers with a dude in your face draped all over you, leaning, hitting these shots, like the difficult shots, like not walking into wide open threes. Like, you've got dudes on you, guarding you, contesting you, and you're still making these shots. And that's what I love. I think you can never have enough bucket getters. You can never have enough guys that'll go out there and knock down these kinds of shots for you. And on top of that, the freak athleticism is something that you can't teach. It's something that doesn't come around with every pick. And if you have that kind of thunder and lightning backcourt with Cade Cunningham, where he's just smooth and, has this ridiculous IQ and sees the floor so well, and then you've got Shaedon Sharpe, who's got a 49-inch vertical and a 7-foot wingspan, and he's just pooping on dudes' heads like that. That would just be an awesome combination for me to watch.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with Shaedon Sharpe is, who are we to judge the path he took to this point? I don't know his story. I don't know why he chose to do what he did. Maybe he was just ready to get to the league. I don't know why he went to Kentucky and didn't play games. And maybe it was like, it's worked for him, right? He's going to end up being a top 5 pick. So maybe that was the best path for. And who are we to judge the best path for him to take? Yeah, I wanted to see him play at Kentucky. Are you kidding me? As a basketball fan, I don't love it. As a coach, I don't necessarily agree with it. I would have wanted him to play, but it's also not my life. It's not my money. Like, that's the other thing we forget. This is how he's going to make a living for his family, generational wealth. We talk about this stuff. If this was the best path for him to make the most money, get drafted the highest, et cetera, who are we to judge that? So I'm not going to knock him on that. The only part of that is now we don't have the film to really get a great evaluation of him, and that's where it becomes hard with Shaedon Sharpe. But I'm not going to knock him because of some of these decisions he made in terms of that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you brought up an important point, too, is like, I think that the people who kind of are judgmental of him, and I get it, analysts are wrong all the time, but the basketball minds, and typically around those top 3 picks or top, I'll just leave at top 3, actually. They don't usually miss on, like, where these guys are supposed to be. And, like, the fact that he's considered at number 5 after sitting out a year, after, having only played, like, high school ball, like, that should, like, solidify him enough for you as well. I'm saying, to, like, not judge if he were the pick at 5. Because they're even talking about him maybe even going 4.
Yeah, like I said, you're not the number 1 recruit in the nation for no reason. Like there's something there.
Yes.
And even if it is an Amani Bates situation where it's not, the hype was too much, or you didn't live up to the hype to a certain extent, while Amani still has a lot of time to prove people wrong and to show what everybody thought he was, if he actually is. I don't know. I've read a couple articles about Kentucky assistant coaches saying that this was the plan, is that he was going to come in there, he was going to sit out that year, and then he's going to lead Kentucky the next year. He was going to be that leader on the team and take them to the promised land. And in my eyes, good for him. He said, sorry guys, like, I'm going to get paid. I don't want to risk my livelihood, because anything could happen. You can have a Paul George, Kevin Ware type injury, and that just ruins, let alone your draft stock, but it can affect your entire career. And so he said, I'm going to go out there now. I'm still young. obviously already a potential top 5 pick. So sorry, like I'm going to get paid millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I know we have to use history as a way to project what may happen with some of these guys in the future, but just because Amani Bates didn't turn out what he was supposed to be at Memphis doesn't mean that it's going to be the same with Shaedon Sharpe. He was actually put in a tough spot at Memphis. They tried to put the ball in his hands. That's not what he was best at. Patrick Baldwin Jr. is another guy in this class. He went to play for his father at a mid-major, a team that wasn't any good, and he didn't play very well. Again, I'm not judging. Go do you. That if you want to go play for your dad, that's your business. But just because those guys flamed out as top recruits doesn't mean they were wrong about Shaedon Sharpe. It also doesn't mean they're right. I'm just saying it doesn't always have to be this. It's the same thing that's going to happen with Jordan Poole. Everybody's going to say, oh, look what Jordan Poole did 2 years in the G League, and then he exploded on the scene. Well, that doesn't mean everybody that spends 2 years in the G League is then going to explode. Like, there's outliers in all of this. And I also wanted to just say real quick, I do think it's telling that since the combine, the Pistons beat writers, specifically Omari Sankofa II and James Edwards III, have made comments about Shaedon Sharpe being a top guy on the Pistons boards. To me, I'm reading between the lines. Omari's my co-host. He never shares any inside intel with me, so don't ask. But
sure.
He had Omari took Shaedon Sharpe in his recent mock draft for the Free Press, and I think there was a comment from James, I don't know if it was on a Pistons Reddit or somewhere, where he said Sharpe was like the number 2 guy if Ivey was off the board or something like that. Reading between the lines, to me, that means something.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I was listening to an interview with him. He's asking whose player comparison was. He told the interviewer Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, and like, dude, a 6'6", 7-foot wingspan. Like, if you're shooting like either of those guys, truthfully, I'm obviously the latter. Devin Booker up all day.
Yeah, imagine Devin Booker at 6'6" with a 49-inch vertical and a 7-foot wingspan. Like,
yeah, sign me up.
It sounds like an MVP.
No, literally, yeah.
And those guys are the archetype of player. It's probably the second favorite archetype I have for Cade Cunningham, behind kind of the Benedict Mathen archetype. I'll get off of that. But, the Zach LaVine, and I know we're varying levels of athleticism here between these guys, but the two you mentioned, Bill, Booker, Zach LaVine, obviously an insane athlete. But that kind of just off-ball, like just straight bucket getter.
Yeah.
I like that type of archetype next to Cade, because now that allows Cade maybe to expend more energy defending, grabbing rebounds, facilitating. He doesn't have to score as much.
Exactly, and that's where I see us winning with Cade, is him as the facilitator, like, because he can get to the floor. I don't want to say Luka, because Luka's proven to himself like he might be generational. Like, Luka's like truly special, and Cade could be special too. And I do really like Cade, but like, he has the same style of play where he can get to the floor anywhere on the floor that he wants, so smooth and so effortless. And obviously, he's always a threat to score at any level of the floor. That he's a threat, and then he kicks it out. Same way you see with LeBron and those guys, I'm saying, and finds a shooter like Shaedon Sharpe. Or, I mean, I love Cade Cunningham, man. I just want somebody who could knock down the three with him consistently, because in today's league, it's, the 4 teams in the conference finals right now, 3-and-D, 3-and-D, 3-and-D. Yeah. All 4 of them top 10 in the three-point made. This is how the game is nowadays,
And I see a world. I'd be interested to know your guys' answer to this. I'm notorious for coming on other people's podcasts and asking questions, so I apologize.
No, you're good. I think it's awesome. No, yeah.
I see a world where the Pistons could be competing for a championship and Cade Cunningham isn't your number 1 scorer. It doesn't mean he's not your best player. Doesn't mean he's not the most important player. Doesn't mean he's not the face of the franchise. But I think he's the type of player where there's a world. Now, there's a world where he is, but I also see a world where there isn't. Would you guys agree, as we talked about championship aspirations here?
If Shaedon Sharpe is what he's supposed to be, 100%. If we're going to draft him. But, yeah, no, if we can get someone like that around Cade, 100%.
Look at me. I am the interviewer now. No, but it's I could definitely see that. Like we saw that with the Suns when they made the finals last year, and Chris Paul was their best player, but Devin Booker was their best scorer. The things don't have to go hand in hand, where Cade can affect so many different levels of the game, to where it's getting other guys going, getting, like you said, getting on that offensive and defensive boards, assisting, getting ridiculous passes off, playing great defense, and then you've got a guy like Shaedon Sharpe or a Devin Booker that's just there strictly for buckets, like Swaggy P. My right arm is just for buckets, and I would love to see that, and I would love to have that kind of player to go with him, because is the clashing, like opposites attract, and like the clashing play styles of that backcourt, I feel like would go so well together because it would give you so many opportunities to run so many different offensive sets and have different offensive game plans you can base off of matchups rather than just Cade's our guy, we're going to run with him, we're going to do everything through him.
LeBron and Kyrie.
Yeah, exactly. You have, this guy can't really guard the 2 or 3 very well. Okay, this is going to be a U game, and we're going to have Cade play off ball a lot of the game. Oh, this guy's a weaker defender at 1. All right, Cade, you're going to take over. And it's, I don't know.
And he's selfless like that too, man. That's why I love, and he's a threat at any level of the floor. Like anywhere on the floor, Cade's a threat.
Never bad to have options on offense, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the things that excited me the most whenever I was looking at him last season and then, even in the summer league and into the beginning of the season. Here's what's crazy. I had to write an article for Detroit Bad Boys that said, like, hey, Cade's going to be fine. People were calling him a bust after 2 games last season. I mean, it's crazy to think back on that and then how, wild, crazy. And it may not have been Pistons fans, it was people. But the point is, even when he wasn't shooting the ball well early in his rookie season, you could still see all the other ways he could affect the game. Defensively. We've outlined all of it, the intangibles. And so that's why sometimes I'm like, man, maybe a bucket getter, you actually see the best version of Cade. We've fallen in love with his ability to score the basketball. But really what I think is best about him is he can impact the game in so many different ways.
What pushes Keegan down the list for you? In terms of, and again, I know your list is kind of like everyone else's right now. It's altering. It's kind of, I related this draft to like NFL draft. It's kind of like altering, like who you fall in love with each week. But maybe this NBA draft even more. But why is Keegan like low on there for you?
I think he has the lowest ceiling of all 4 guys. And I realize his floor is higher than Sharp and Ivey's, but I think Sharp and Ivey's ceiling is significantly higher than Keegan Murray. And then Benedict Mathen has a similar level floor, but also a higher ceiling, even if it's not as high as those guys. Again, it's very close. It's splitting hairs. The producer of the Pistons Pulse, my guy, Wes Davenport, who's there with me from him and I debate every single day because he thinks it should be Keegan Murray. So we get in arguments every day through text messages. I imagine what you two guys' relationship is like as you argue about things. But we just don't get to do it in person. We have to do it through text message. But I don't hate Keegan Murray. I just don't see the upside that some people do. I don't love the athleticism. I question some of the post ability that it's going to translate to the NBA. I like a lot of things, but that would be my reason. I just don't see an ultimate upside.
I think those are fair criticism. I think it's like a lot of this stuff, man, that, like we speak on. I think the shooting inconsistencies, it's obvious to see in Ivey. I think all the things you speak on Keegan Murray is obvious too. Like he's not super explosive. You know what I'm saying? Like he is kind of like a weird tweener where you don't know if he's going to be stuck at a 4, but also not like athletic enough to cover a 3. Is like 100%. I agree with you. I guess I don't think anyone should like knock those kind of like observations because they're just true. Did you want to say anything on Keegan real quick? There's one person I want to ask him about too.
It's I gave my piece on Keegan a little while ago to where I think he can. I really agree to where I think he has the highest ceiling, but the
highest floor.
The highest floor, but the lowest ceiling in the draft. To where you kind of know what you're getting with him. You know you're getting a guy that is going to go out there and best case scenario get you 18 and 8, 18 and 10. That kind of situation to where that will be a solid starter in the NBA for plenty of years to come. But when you have the potential of a Jaden Ivey or a Shaden Sharp to where these guys can be transcendent backcourt players, I think it's tough to go with that.
No, it's tough, especially when you watch like the highlights of a Jaden Ivey. Like it's. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, I said this countless times. Like, I think he's gonna be a good player. He's so fun to watch. It's hard to say no. But I just look at it as a fundamental it's a winning formula, winning recipe. And like we said earlier, I can't think of those 2 archetypes at championship pedigree that worked out in the NBA. But it's still, when you watch the highlights, it's like how do you say no to that though? But I do want to ask you about another guy. Go ahead.
No, I just say it's easy to fall in love with his athleticism, Shaden Sharp's.
Yes.
And again, I think Benedict Mathen gets left out of the athleticism thing. Like, go watch the TCU NCAA tournament game. He puts a dunk on the dude's head that will make you jump out of your seat. So don't sleep on my guy Benedict Mathen's smooth athleticism.
I am going to watch some more because I do like him a lot. I've been talking about him since the tournament time. I just saw like the dog in this kid. I'm like, this guy, their whole team really. You know what I'm saying? Their whole team was fun to watch.
Yeah.
They were just dogs, all of them. Big Terry too. But AJ Griffin's an archetype that I could see fitting well with Cade. He made a face. I get like the nervousness around him, and he's almost like I'm not gonna say I'm proven, but Devin Booker, I guess, a little bit, just for the shot, man, just the archetype. I like guys again. Cade bringing that defense, closing down on him, and kicking the ball out to a guy who's gonna hit you for 3, not 2 points, 3 points. Like the way the NBA is kind of driven right now, the way the Warriors are driven right now, the way the Celtics can knock it all down is what I like about AJ Griffin. But you made a face on, and I'm curious because I know you studied him a lot more than I have.
Yeah, so I did a breakdown on him. The shooting is legit. You're absolutely right, Easy. There's no question about it. I would call him the second best shooter in the draft in terms of the guys I've looked at. Jabari Smith's shooting is unreal. Like, I just want to say that. He's not just a catch and shoot guy. He's doing it off the bounce. He's doing it in the mid post. I don't want to, relive the lottery luck the Pistons had and not having a chance at him. But AJ Griffin is a shooter. He can knock down shots from 3. It's really, really, high level. I have 2 knocks on AJ Griffin. One, I don't think he defends on the ball at all on the perimeter. I think he's really bad on-ball defender. Off the ball, he's fine. On the ball, I have major questions. And then the injury history coming out of high school when he first got to Duke, that's why they worked him in there slow. If the medicals came back and told me he's going to get his burst in athleticism, apparently he was a high-level athlete in high school. I haven't seen that film. If you told me that was coming back, I would have him more in play at number 5 than probably what I do right now.
Yeah, and that's one thing is it's like you said, the shooting's undeniable, and that's a big part of what we need is more shooting to surround Cade Cunningham, to surround other people that we have on our team, to help out Sadiq to where he's not the only guy on the floor that doesn't have the ball in his hands that's going to be able to knock down these threes. But at 5, it's a little much to ask for just a shooter, just a guy that's going to be a standstill shooter out there, and that's it's tough because that's what we need. It's really what we need. Other than like paint defense and rebounding, shooting is number 1.
Yeah,
so it's tough. But I want more. I want a top 5 pick. I want them to have the potential to be a superstar, and I don't see that potential out of him.
I'm with you guys.
I will say this. Sorry, Easy. Like, I've seen people believe in the upside. Like, I've seen people have him as number 3 or number 4 even, and I haven't seen that type of stuff with Benedict Mathen or Keegan Murray. I don't personally buy into it. I think, guys, the high school film must be insane. Like, incredible, because I think that's what a lot of people go back to is look what he was in high school. Look at the athleticism, and then at Duke, he at least showed the shooting still. So there must be some really good high school film on him.
Would that be a total Kings move to take AJ Griffin at 4? And then,
yes, please. Yes, please.
Just let us choose from what we want. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be wild. I mean, if Troy took him at 5, I wouldn't. Just because it's Troy, I wouldn't care. And I have heard, like you said, the upside on his athleticism because he did start his career off at Duke injured, and he wasn't as explosive. They said part of that was coming back towards the end of the season. But the shot, I do like. One other thing I wanted to ask you about. Anything else real quick on the draft you guys want to touch on? Any other points we didn't?
What about, like second rounders, like guys that are not going to be, because I've seen full drafts. And one thing I really liked, I saw, it was like my favorite mock draft I've seen so far. It was us taking Shaden Sharp at 5, and then we got Caleb Houston with our second round pick. And Caleb Houston, a guy who underperformed at Michigan. He had a lot of hype behind him, but that's another guy that can stretch the floor, big body, wing guy, another guy you can throw at Giannis or Jason Tatum. And that getting that in the second round, who he had the potential to be a top 15 pick coming into last season. People had that potential on him, and he didn't live up to the hype. But if we can get a Troy Weaver steal like that, a Troy Weaver and John Beilein, Michigan guy over there, he fell a little bit, let's take him. So I would love something like that. So what do you think about that? And are there any second round guys that you could see being an Isaiah Livers or an Isaiah Stewart that Troy could steal and could make an impact on a team?
Yeah, this draft's really hard because I think a lot of people will say 20 to 45, which is right at the back end. That's right about where the Pistons are going to pick at 46. Those guys are all jumbled up. So there's some bigger names like Bryce McGowan's, a kid out of Nebraska that scores I can cuss, I assume, shit out of the ball. Ryan Rollins, a mid-major guy from Toledo. I know, I'm sorry. I'm a teacher, but it's summer, so I'm chilling a little bit. There you go. Look at this. Merry Christmas on our living. This is how busy the Simon household is. It's almost June, and we still got Merry Christmas, Kevin, from Home Alone on the little sign there. I hope my wife doesn't watch this or she's Patrick Baldwin Jr., who I mentioned earlier, even though he had a rough season, if he falls to there, I think you take a shot on the upside. But how about let's stay with these connections? How about a Michigan State guy and Max Christie? You guys probably have honestly watched him more than me, but a guy that's supposed to be able to really shoot it. I like the defense. I've never studied it, but watching other guys and then just noticing him on the defensive end, the metrics don't like his defense, but the video I watched, I liked it. So would that be a guy that would excite you in the second round?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Spartan Dog. I'd love to see a Spartan Dog on the team, and those guys, Max Christie is a shot maker. He can make these pull up jump shots from 15 to 25. Like you said, he's an underrated defender because he's long and he's quick, so he can stay in front of guys. And if he gets beat, he has the length to recover and make different plays at the rim. So it's very important and. To look at his whole game and to look at all of his assets rather than just judge him off of playing defense in a system. Michigan State had a pretty bad team last year. They had a pretty bad year, and he was, as a freshman, really asked to be the guy. Other than they had a Gabe Brown, they had other Marcus Bingham, who these guys are 4-year seniors that came up from nothing that were asked to carry this team. So Max Christie was that real talent on that roster, and so he was kind of thrust into that position as a freshman, even though Izzo doesn't like doing that. But yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love to see Max Christie in a Pistons jersey. Even though I'd rather see him in a Spartan jersey, I wish he would have stayed. But
what do you guys think about some big guys? Is that something? I don't think Koloko, the kid out of Arizona, which is obviously Benedict Mathen's teammate, I don't think he's fallen there. Walker Kessler, the kid out of Auburn, who was literally, by the metrics, had a historically good season shot blocking. It seems like his train has slowly slowed down, I guess, cooled down, and maybe he's a guy that could fall. I don't know that he's a starting NBA center, but he's a guy that, come in the second unit, block shots, catch lobs, and maybe be able to shoot it a little bit.
Can you text me that name? I gotta look. I want to watch some film of that guy. Yeah, and then because we're getting kicked out of the studio right now because we're renting out the time right now. These people are supposed to be at 3, so I'm gonna rapid fire you just 2 questions real quick. One.
Yep.
Should we Jalen Duren even a thought at 5?
Not for me. I literally just finished my film breakdown on him, and that would be a little bit.